This man was accidentally beheaded in the passenger seat of his car where his friend was driving drunk and didn't even notice until the next morning. Quick disclaimer that I am just a girl, I'm not a lawyer, and all this information is publicly available. Frankie Braun was a 23-year-old from Louisville, Kentucky, described by his family and friends as full of life, charismatic, and endlessly kind. He had just relocated to Marietta, Georgia, and was loved by everyone who knew him. His teachers remembered him as bright and curious, and his classmates called him a friend who could make anyone smile. On the night of August 29, 2004, Frankie and his friend, 21-year-old John Hutcherson, went to a local sports bar to drink beers and watch sports. Towards the end of the night, Frankie started to feel sick and wanted to leave. John was very intoxicated but insisted that he was okay to drive them back. So, they leave the bar, they get in the car, and start driving home. John is driving and Frankie is in the passenger seat with the window rolled down. This is important. The window was rolled down so in case Frankie needed to throw up on the way home, he could do it out the window instead of in the car. Because again, he was sick. So Frankie at one point did start to lean out the window to throw up on the road instead of in the car. While this was happening, remember, John is driving drunk. He is intoxicated. So he was drifting into the lane of oncoming traffic. There was a car coming towards them. The car was honking at John's truck, flashing their brights, trying to get his attention to move back into his own lane so they could avoid a car accident. Thankfully, John realized what was happening and swerved back into his own lane, but while doing this, he lost control of the vehicle and swerved off the road. Again, while Frankie is leaning out of the car, throwing up, he simultaneously sideswiped a telephone pole support wire, which decapitated Frankie immediately. What makes this story so chilling is what happened next. John didn't even notice that his friend was decapitated. He had no idea. He just kept driving, got back on the road, and drove home like normal. They got back to the house, he parked the truck, John went inside, and went to bed, leaving Frankie's headless body in the car in the driveway. Like, hello, did you not remember that you drove your friend home? Were you not going to try to help him inside? You knew he was sick, he was throwing up, but you just didn't think to bring him inside with you? Or you thought he wanted to sleep in the truck overnight? I don't know, that whole part is very eerie to me. The next morning, a neighbor discovered Frankie's headless body inside of the car, still in the driveway like I just said. So they called 911. Officers arrived on the scene and found Frankie's body. So they immediately knocked on the door of the house, getting no answers, so they rush inside. They find John sleeping in his bed and arrested him immediately. He was arrested and charged with first-degree vehicular homicide, DUI, and leaving the scene of a fatal accident. Despite the shock and anger of the story, Frankie's family was compassionate, expressing that they wanted John to get help and to rebuild his life. In May of 2005, John pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 5 years in prison. Frankie's unaliving rightfully shocked both families and their community. His friends and loved ones remembered him as the kind of person who lit up a room, who had dreams, plans, and a bright future ahead of him. His loss became a tragic reminder of the dangers of impaired driving and devastating consequences that one split-second decision can have. That is all I have on this case. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. This was a wild story that I came across and really wanted to research it further and wanted to cover it. I hope I explained the oncoming traffic swerving thing well, but I hope you understood what I meant. I post true crime videos, so if you enjoy this type of content, follow so you don't miss my next video, and please stay safe out there because you never know what's right around the corner. This 12-year-old girl was beaten and unalived by her own friends at a sleepover. I just covered a case very similar to this one, and the fact that there's another case that's eerily similar to it, and it's teenage girls attacking each other at sleepovers, is absolutely insane. This is the story of Shonda Scherer. I do have to give a trigger warning that this video does involve the unaliving of a minor. Please take care of yourself, your mental health matters, and a quick disclaimer that I'm just a girl, I'm not a lawyer, and all this information is publicly available. Shonda Scherer was a 12-year-old girl from Madison, Indiana. She was this bright, bubbly, outgoing kid that everybody loved. She was really close with her family, she absolutely adored her friends, and she just had this energy that lit up a room. She loved going to school and dancing to music. She had a big heart, and everyone who knew her said that she was impossible not to like. On January 11th in 1992, Shonda went to a sleepover with 4 of her friends who were fellow teenage girls. Their names were Melinda Loveless, Lori Tackett, Tina Brandon, and Hope Rigby. And I need you to hear this and remember this, this was not a random crime. This was planned, deliberate, and fueled entirely by jealousy of teenage girls. Melinda Loveless was the ringleader of the attack. She was obsessed with Shonda's ex-girlfriend. She wanted her attention and was just insanely jealous of Shonda. And instead of dealing with her jealousy in a normal and healthy way, she convinced the other girls to kidnap Shonda. Like, she literally manipulated 3 other girls to hopping onto her plan and committing an attack towards another one of their friends. So the girls tricked Shonda into coming over, getting into one of their cars, and pretending like it was a normal ride to a normal sleepover like they've had before. But instead of driving to a house, they drove her to a random remote location. And Shonda had no idea what was going on. She was very confused. And once they got there, they tortured her and abused her for hours. And they took her life in such a brutal way. They her multiple times, burned her, and strangled her. And the 4 teenage girls took turns attacking her. Like, how are 4 teenage girls that messed up that they think that this is okay? Again, I said this in my other video about the Kira Hart case, but when I was 12 and 13, I was painting my toenails and watching movies at sleepovers. We did not do this kind of stuff. Teenagers scare the shit out of me. And some of the most chilling details of this case come from a psychology standpoint. Melinda was completely obsessed. Lori was emotionally manipulated by Melinda. Tina was sort of along for the ride, like she didn't care and didn't have a very good conscience, clearly. And then Hope was eventually swayed into committing the act too. So peer pressure, obsession, and manipulation combined into something so horrifying on this night. And all of it was over jealousy of a relationship that had nothing to do with them personally. That was Shonda and her ex-girlfriend's business. That was not any of their business. They ended up leaving Shonda's body in a remote area in Jeffersonville, Indiana. The 4 girls just drove off and left her there. Of course, when Shonda didn't return home, her mother became worried and called police. Once she was reported missing, police began interviewing her friends and family. And they quickly discovered that 4 local teenage girls were involved. Some of the girls' classmates provided information to police. And this was key information, like including sightings of Shauna out with the other girls and knowledge of Melinda's obsession with Shauna's ex-girlfriend. The girlies were giving the officers the tea, and her body was found by locals the next day. Thankfully, the girls were arrested quickly. And of course, the trial drew national attention. Each girl was questioned extensively in the interview process, and some initially lied or minimized their involvement. But investigators used strategic questioning and evidence from the crime scene to get confessions. Melinda Loveless ended up getting 60 years in prison. Lori Tackett, who was also heavily involved, got 60 years, but she was released after serving just 20. Hope Rippey got 50 years, but served way less than that due to her minimal role in the attack.